it's Chords and Coffee, and today I'm going to make good on a promise from long ago. Back in April 15th, 2023, we premiered an episode of Chords and Coffee that was focused on the tune The Nightlife, originally written by Willie Nelson, made famous by Ray Price, and immortalized on pedal steel by Buddy Emmons. And the beautiful intro that's in the song, along with a lot of these beautiful chord voicings, I think makes for an excellent Chords and Coffee. At least that's how I felt back in April 15th of 2023. And several of y'all agreed. Now, I didn't do the whole tune. I only did the first half of it because I didn't know, it was a 60-year-old song. I didn't know if anybody would even care, right? But a lot of y'all did. In fact, it's the third most watched Chords and Coffee episode, and I had a few comments. John Jurgensen, 7335, says, "Great lesson. Great playing too. Sure would enjoy a full version tutorial. Thanks, Nate." No problem. This is the episode for that. Here's a Critic Man 123. Nate, let's do the rest. Here's just somebody saying, part two. The people have spoken. You know what you want. I'm here to give it to you. So first, let's catch up. And what I want to do is I want to, reteach the tune like I did back then. This time we'll have chord charts on the screen, but also I want to show you maybe a couple of chord versions or a chord variations that I didn't show you back then, along with part two. So 1, 2, 3, here we go. This song opens up with this beautiful intro. And what holds all that together, believe it or not, the song's in the key of D, but you have these really beautiful chord substitutions where you go from D to F dominant 7 to B flat major 7 to E flat 9, sharp 11. And what holds all those together is this A note. That's Mr. Edmonds on the pedal steel and the genius of his playing. I don't know if he came up with that, but he certainly made it sound beautiful. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your index finger, you're gonna put it on the 7th fret of the G and the B with the open D string and play that like a chord. And then you're gonna play 7, 8, 10. Just like that. Now when you get to that 10th note there on the B string, so 7, 8, 10 on the B string, that A note, which is on the 10th fret, at that point your fingers are then going to reform into this F7, this F dominant 7. And that's going to be index finger on the 8th fret of the A. We're skipping the D. And then we're going to do the middle finger on the 8th fret of the G, and then pinky on the 10th fret of the B. So one more time. So I hit that A note on the 10th fret of the B, and then instantly my fingers form Voltron here on, that's a joke, I was raised, I'm a 90s kid. Your fingers are going to go here to that F7, right? And then, kind of in the same way that we did this, now my pinky is going to come up here to the, and I'm going to kind of rake in with my right hand with a pick on these dead strings to the 10th fret of the high E. 10, 8. And then I'm going to hit the pinky here right back where it was before on the 10th fret of the B. So when I hit that, that's going to be index finger on the 6th fret of the low E, middle finger on the 7th fret of the G, and then pinky on the 10th fret of the B. So now this next part, so when I'm doing this, the first time I play this B flat 7, I know it's stretchy, but you can do it. You really can. And it's, once you, if your hand hurts, it's probably a thumb placement problem, right? So move your thumb around and you'll find the place of comfort there. But as soon as I get to this next part, I'm gonna lay my index finger straight across the 6th fret, sort of human capo, and then my middle finger is gonna stay where it is on the G string of the 7th fret. So, and that little part right there, that's going to be, I'm playing the E and the G at the same time. And then I'm playing the B string that my index finger is holding down here on the 6th fret. And then my ring finger's coming down here on the 8th fret. So, and then after this is the hardest part of the whole song. Once you get this licked, cream cheese, right? You're going to be, middle finger is going to be on the 6th fret of the A. Your ring finger is going to be on the 6th fret of the G. Pinky is going to be on the 6th fret of the B. And then index finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the high E. And then to this D6-9, I just like the way that sounds. And that's going to be middle finger on the 5th fret of the A. Index is going to be on the D and the G, holding them both down at the 4th fret. And then ring and pinky are going to be, ring is going to be on the B string, 5th fret. Pinky is going to be on the high E, 5th fret. So that whole shaboing one more time. And once you get into this, so we've got this D6-9, we've got when the evening sun goes down, you will find me hanging around. All right, so what you got here is, after that D6-9, you're going to do a little A minor 9. And I like to slide into that. Just like that. We've done that before, like on that chord meditation lesson, but here it is again. Index finger is going to be on the D, G, and B of the 5th fret. Pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the high E. And then to a D9. And then that's going to be your middle finger on the, again, on the 5th fret. And then your index finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the D, so 5th fret of the A, 4th fret of the D, and then ring finger is going to lay down on the G, the B, and the E on the 5th fret. So you just did a 2-5-1 after that D6-9, 2, 5, and then to this G major 7. So that A minor D7 is setting up this G major 7. And I'm doing this just like this, index finger on the 3rd fret of the low E, skipping the A, ring finger on the 4th fret of the D, pinky on the 4th fret of the G, and then middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B. You will find me hanging around. Now remember that D9? Slide that back a whole step. So now your middle finger is on the 3rd fret of the A, index finger 2nd fret of the D. Ring finger is going to lay on the 3rd of the G, B, and the high E. But let's get our pinky involved, and let's do pinky on the 5th fret. So it's kind of a C13 for just a second, and then back to that C9. And then you can go to Will the Night Life. And then I might do a D over F sharp right here. Kind of a little Jimmy moment here. And that's just going to be index finger on the 7th fret of the D, the G, and the B. And then if I do that hammer on, I actually want to have my index finger on the A string. Then my ring finger is going to hammer on the 9th fret of the A. If I don't have to have it on there. I can just have my ring finger on the 9th fret of the A. And then maybe to this B minor 11. And that's going to be, let's see, middle finger on the 7th fret of the low E, skipping the A, ring finger 7th fret of the D, pinky 7th fret of the G, index is going to be on the 5th fret of the B. And then a little E minor 9. We've done this one before too. Here it comes again, index finger on the A, from A all the way to the high E, 2nd fret. And then your middle finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B, and then your pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the D with the low E open. And this is a G over A. And I think we've done this on a dominant 7 lesson, maybe. If not, comment below and we'll do it again. Index finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the B. Now, your middle finger is going to be on the 4th fret of the G, but then your pinky is going to be on the 5th fret of the D, and then your ring comes over here to the 5th fret of the low E. And then all you're going to do is just take this top 3 strings and then basically build an F sharp triad underneath it, where you have your index finger laying on the 2nd fret of the high E, 2nd fret of the B, middle finger is on the 3rd fret now of the G string, and then your pinky is on the D string, and your ring is on the low E of the 5th fret. So that whole thing is, you can go back to a D major 7 right there if you want, with your index finger laying on the 2nd fret of the E, the B, and the G, and then ring on the 4th fret of the D, pinky on the 5th fret of the A, or just back into this. I kind of like that. And then you do it again. Now, as promised, when you do that again, there's lots of different variations on the theme of these chords that you can do, probably should do, just to add some different tension, as well as just feeling like the song is progressing right along. So with that, on that D6-9, you could do that, or you could come up here. Check this out. So same kind of deal, where we've got basically the 5th fret. I'm holding that down on the high E with my pinky. Ring is on the B of the 5th fret. Now, what if I took this whole sheboing here and slid this up to the 10th fret? So pinky and ring are now on the 10th fret of the high E and the B. And now I'm holding my index finger on the 9th fret of the D and the G, and then my middle finger is going to hit the 10th fret of the low E. And so what is that? And so this is going to be another A minor 9, but this time it's going to be middle finger is going to be on the, 10th fret of the D. I've got an open A. I'm not playing the low E. I've got my index finger on the 9th fret of the G, and then pinky is going to be on the 12th fret of the B. And I might resolve that to the 10th fret here on the B, and then maybe do that again. So the whole thing might be like. So what was that? So after that, I did a D13, index finger on the 10th fret of the low E, skipping the A, middle finger 10th fret of the D, ring finger 11th fret of the G, pinky 12th fret of the B. And you can do that again if you want to. Where I take my pinky, or I take my middle finger off, and then come down here on the 10th fret of the B, just to keep that melody going right there. And then this G major 9, this is going to be middle finger on the 10th fret of the A, index finger of 9th fret of the D, pinky is going to be on the 11th fret of the G, and then ring is going to be on the 10th fret of the B. And then I did E minor 7 flat 5 instead of the C right there, which also works. If you remember the whole tension and release lesson, the E minor 7 flat 5 and C7 are substitutions for one another for the key of F. Why are we talking about the key of F? Well, because there's just a moment here where the tonal center kind of leaves just for a second. And honestly, it's a substitution for a G minor. If none of that makes sense, comment below and I'll walk you through it, okay? So we go to that E minor 7 flat 5. That's going to be index finger on the 7th fret of the A, ring finger on the 8th fret of the D, middle finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the G, and then pinky is on the 8th fret of the B. And then back to this D. Here comes the B section. What was all that just then? Okay, D major 7. Index finger, 5th fret. Straight across from A to high E. Ring finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the D. Middle finger is going to be on the 6th fret of the G. And then pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the B. And sometimes I'll go, kind of walk that down there on the A string. 5, 4, 4, 2, right? And this is, think of this as kind of, it's just like a B minor 7 type situation here. I've got my B, my index finger is going to be on the A string of the B note, 2nd fret, all the way across, and then middle finger is going to hit that D note on the 3rd fret of the B, and then pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the high E. It's almost like a if you're interested, there's a whole set of chords called quartal chords as opposed to triads, where you have no threes and you have fours. It's almost that. Or I should say there's fourth intervals as opposed to being built off third intervals, right? And so it's almost that kind of thing. I guess it is. And then I go to the same thing here over an E. Okay, this time I'm sliding this whole shebang up here to the 7th fret. So index finger's on the 7th fret straight across, from A to high E, and then middle finger is on the B string of the 8th fret, and then pinky is on the 10th fret of the high E. And then I went something like that. I don't remember exactly what I did. But you've got your index finger here on the 5th fret of the low E. I'm skipping the A and I'm skipping the D. And my ring is going to be on the 6th fret of the G. And then I might go 5, 7 on the B to the 5th fret of the high E. And then D, back to D major 7. And then that little move right there is... Think of this as a G minor. Remember that A minor 9? Slide that back a whole step. That's going to be index finger on the D string all the way to the high E on the 3rd fret, and then pinky's going to be on the 5th fret. And I'm pulling that pinky off to resolve to the 3rd fret of the high E. And then to a C9, which is going to be middle finger on the 3rd fret of the A, index finger 2nd fret of the D, and then ring on the 3rd fret of the G, pinky on the 3rd fret of the B. Now, take these two notes here, these double stops, from the 3rd fret, slide them up to the 5th fret. So rings on the G string, pinky's on the B string of the 5th fret. And then up to the 7th fret for that D. So now, once I hit that D, my index finger is going to come down and hit the D on the 5th fret of the A, and then go backwards chromatically. So 7th fret, 6th fret, 5th fret. So that whole thing is... Listen to what the blues they're playing. I don't know why, but I always screw up the lyrics there. Every time, even when I'm singing in my car, I always say, listen, I always want to say, listen to what the blues are saying. But the first line, the way that Ray Price sings anyway, is listen to the blues they're playing, okay? Now, at this point in the song, you've got some decisions to make. And that's because when you listen to this version, to my ear, they spend a little more time on that one chord, and it's a dominant 7 in this situation. They spend a little more time on that than what feels right. And then the same thing when they go to the G, right? And so how do you, especially if you're playing as a solo arrangement, or if you're playing like in a power trio with you and a bass player, or you and a keyboard player and a drummer, and you're trying to take up as much space harmonically as you can. How do you elongate that, keep it interesting, and not dull, because it's sitting on the chord for a while. Of course, they do a great job because they got all these activities happening, but that's one way to do it. Another way to do it would be, yeah, listen to the blues they're playing. And so all I'm doing there is I did that D9, and then I went to this good old-fashioned, think of it as like a D7. It's kind of this working man blues kind of. What am I doing? Well, I've got my index finger here on the 10th fret of the D, the G, and the B. And I'm hammering on with my middle finger on the 11th fret. This is important. We're going to do it again in G down here. So you get a little bit more return on your investment here, if I can say that right, return on investment, yeah. That kind of thing. So you got your index finger laying across the 10th fret, like I said, the D, the G, and the B. Middle finger slams down here on the 11th fret. And then your ring finger is going to hit the 12th fret of the D, the G, and the B. And then think of this as like making like a little A minor up here. And then your index finger is going to go, for my ring finger, I'm going to trade places with my index finger on the 12th fret, right where it was. And then I'm going to sort of doing the Rolling Stones kind of, that kind of thing. I'm doing it right here now where I've got my index finger on the 12th fret of the D, the G, and the B, and I'm hammering on with my middle finger on the 13th fret of the B and my ring finger on the 14th fret of the D string. That's one way to approach it. Another way would be this kind of. What's happening there? Well, I've got 13th fret of the B and 14th fret of the G with an open D string. And I'm sliding down to the 10th and the 11th of the same two strings. By the way, this is a very handy thing because I think, what is it? It comes up in Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan. That little maneuver, you'll use it in other songs. It's not just precluded to this one, like a lot of the stuff that we talk about. And I might go from here back to this that we did just a second ago on that D, that kind of thing. And then to the G, just like I said. Now you can choose to use the whole bar chord voicing. If you got a bass player, you might not do that. You might just do the exact same thing I did up here, right? But if you don't, you might go index finger from the 3rd fret of the low E all the way to the high E, and then build basically hammer on like an E7 with the human capo on it. So I've got my middle finger on the 4th fret of the G and my ring finger on the 5th fret of the A. If you move that like I just did, I don't just love that. I don't just hate it either. It's just a different kind of flavor. What did I do? I basically had I'm thinking of that as almost like an A or a D minor over A. Yeah, I don't even want to show it to you. I don't even care for it. But there it is, right? It's an option. Right, so you've got your G7 there, do your C over G where I'm basically laying my ring finger over the 5th fret of the D, the G, and the B, and then coming up here, doing the exact same thing I did up here, but now it's going to be index finger on the 5th fret of the D, the G, and the B, and then middle finger on the 6th fret of the B, and then ring finger on the 7th fret of the D. And then to turn it around, it's an A chord. Yeah, mine. Just another scene. We're right back into the stuff. And right back into the tune. So you've got that bridge section there that is kind of this really cool jazzy moment. Not jazzy, it's kind of a bluesy thing. And then you go right back into the tune. If I was going to do this song live, which I would love to do this live with the band someday, I would probably do that B section and then out of that B section go into an instrumental verse because those chords would be really fun to play over and it'd just be really pretty. And then after that verse, go back into a B section and then go into the last verse. And the last verse is, yeah, mine is just another scene from the world of broken dreams. Oh, the nightlife. It ain't a good life, but it's mine. It's so sad, but it's also kind of bittersweet. And it's also, man, if you've ever played a gig in front of the people that only work in that bar or that club or basically an empty room, like like you can identify with this song. I love it. It's a beautiful tune. It's that wonderful bittersweet emotion. And Jordan, I think I got it all. Is there anything I missed there? There's Jordan. Actually, there is the ending. How do we end this thing? Well, I'll tell you. So you got that. It goes back to, am I just another scene from the world? Boom, boom, a broken dream. Oh, you can do that chord too. Think of it as a G minor over E, E minor 7 flat 5. Index finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the high E, the B, and the G. Middle finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the D, and then pinky is going to be on the 7th fret of the A. Oh, the night life ain't a good life, but it's mine. So what's happening there? You've got your D6, or you can use a regular D if you want. C, and then B7, or you can do D6-9 like we did earlier on. Here's a chart for it. Doing. And then now slide the whole thing down a whole step where you have middle finger on the 3rd fret of the A, index finger on the 2nd fret of the D and the G, sort of a little mini bar, and then ring on the B string, 3rd fret, pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E, and then B9. So then middle finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of the A, index finger 1st fret of the D, and then lay your ring finger down across the top 3, the G, the B, and the high E on the 2nd fret. Oh, the nightlife. What's that? What's an E minor 9, friends? It's going to be middle finger on the 5th fret of the D, index on the 4th fret of the G, pinky on the 7th fret of the B. And then, ain't a good life. Maybe something like that, where you got a little A7 sharp 5 there. And so you can do an open A, and you can have your index finger on the 5th fret of the D, your ring on the 6th fret of the G, pinky on the 6th fret of the B, middle on the 5th fret of the high E, and then back to the intro. There it is, the nightlife. I hope that was helpful to you. I hope all those of you who said, I want part 2, I hope that scratched the itch for you on that. If it didn't, you gotta let me know. Or how about this? Maybe there's other songs out there you're like, Nate, love what you did there. What would you do on this one over here? I'd love to take a look at that. Your comments fuel the Chords and Coffee fire that we roast the beans of inspiration over and guzzle down every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time here on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next week for another Chords and Coffee.